And we should be live for the Steelers Depot live stream here on Monday, May 10th. I am Alex Kozora. As always, with me is Dave Bryan. Hopefully, things are a little better technically than they were the last time. Again, I apologize for that. I did a test stream over the weekend just myself to see if things were working better, and they were. So let me go ahead and just check things here quickly. Looking okay on my end. So, guys, if you could let me know if you're having any sort of issues with audio or buffering or lag or anything like that, that would be helpful. And as always, Dave Bryan is here as well. Dave, how you doing?
Happy Monday. How is everybody? Can you hear me? Do I sound like a robot today?
Yeah, let me know if we have Robot Dave. I'm usually bad about clicking the wrong button about that. So let me know if Dave sounds a little funny and if the stream is lagging or anything like that. Again, looks like we should be okay according to what the stream is showing me right now. But as you guys do that, Michael says everything sounds good. So thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. Have a good crowd here on hand today. Mike AJC says that everything is good as well. So we could start with questions again. Dave and I are here until top of the hour, 8 p.m. Eastern time, answering as many Steelers questions as possible. If you want to have your question be guaranteed to be asked and answered by ourselves, you can send us a super chat. And if you could like the stream as well, that would also be very helpful for both of us. All right, starting things off with mutated genome. Early question, a little before 6 o'clock, says Alex and Dave, have you watched enough tape of Kendrick Green to make an educated assessment of his play? I know he mostly played at guard, but he may successfully made the transition to center in the NFL. Yeah, I've watched more of Green as time has gone on. I watched a game of him this past week as well, and I think center is certainly a better place, a better fit for him for the Steelers and probably just the NFL at large than it is going to be guard, where sometimes that lack of size doesn't hurt you as much as it would as playing guard. So I think certainly there are some traits there that are going to really, help him. The athleticism, the strength that he has, the explosiveness coming out of his stance. I think those things are going to work in his favor. And he's also done a pretty good job snapping the ball in his limited time at center. So there are certainly some traits there that are working in his benefit. I still just worry about that overall lack of size, lack of length that is going to, I think, get him into trouble from time to time.
Yeah, I would concur with that. I've watched a little bit more of him as well too. And look, the athleticism certainly is there with him. I mean, time and time again, especially in the limited snaps that he had played at center at Illinois, you see him get out, be able to get out and reach like some three techs down the line and all like that. So I mean, he obviously can get off the ball real quick. Not only as center, but once again. Uh, it's going to be interesting to see if the length of him overall, how that plays into this, and that and the inexperience overall. Because look, I mean, it certainly sounds like he's got a good grasp of the fundamentals and scheme and line calls and things of that nature. But the execution part of it, he obviously has a limited amount of experience when it comes to that. So there's probably going to be a growing, some growing pains in there, especially his rookie season and learning curve and all like that. And it'll just be interesting to see. Uh, how much the length ultimately comes in, but he's strong as an ox. He
Hmm.
finishes. He has great hip turn ability to torque and things of that nature. But we're dealing with a limited amount of tape here. It's not like we have 3 seasons worth of tape of him at center to evaluate. It's just about 4 games, about I don't know, about 300 snaps in
Hmm.
total, and the snaps I thought for the most part looked okay too.
They did, yeah. This is still a junior overall, so just limited tape generally speaking. He's not a some sort of senior that started for all 4 seasons for his college team, but just have good starting experience overall. And I know that Marquise Pouncey's length was not that good. It's about the same as Kendrick Green's, about 32 inches, but he was just a bigger body overall. And even just beyond some of the obvious size stuff, just staying on his feet, not being on the ground, whether you're playing center or guard. If you're a lineman who's going to be on the ground a lot, you're going to have a tough time of it, regardless of what position you're playing. And so those were some of the issues I saw in his tape as well. Just as you've mentioned, Dave, maybe being a little over aggressive, not super
Mhm.
technical, and then finding himself on the ground more often than you would like to be for an offensive lineman.
He likes to bar fight, basically,
Yeah.
off the ball, and sometimes that gets him in trouble. He just tries to get too aggressive and overextend himself at times. So and as Mike Tomlin likes to say, something it's hard to say. You'd rather say "whoa" than "sick 'em"
Hmm.
sometimes than that. So look, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see someone of his size and stature move forward into the NFL at the center position, especially playing as much as he did at guard at the college level.
Mike Odessa with a good question. Hi guys, happy Monday. Happy Monday to you as well, Mike. Minus the obvious Najee pick, who's each of your favorite draft pick fit for the Steelers? I'm leaning Roche. I think Roche's a good answer there, Mike. I think he presented the best value of the entire draft. I really warmed up to Buddy Johnson. You guys saw my YouTube channel, the video I did last week of his run fits and patience and physicality defeating blocks. And so I think he's got a pretty well rounded game, both as an athlete, in sideline to sideline, and kind of downhill physicality with, I think, some potential and some ability to cover and move backwards as well. So I've really warmed up to Buddy Johnson.
Yeah, my easy answer is Roche. Obviously, I really thought he would kind of be a third, fourth round, kind of prospect. I think his length, and overall kind of measurable athleticism, is what drove him down. Kind of slid through the cracks, if you will, and right into the Steelers' hands. So I think from a value standpoint, look, this team needed an outside linebacker that can get out after the passer and one that can maybe sooner rather than later during his rookie season get on the field and absorb maybe 10, 11, 12 snaps, something like that. And he looks, that looks like the pick that stands to have the most value with it overall.
But you guys let us know who your favorite draft pick was outside of Harris in the first round. I want to say hello to some people joining the chat. We have, again, Mike is here, Kevin is here, James and Benor. So thank you guys for being here. Dave and I are with you until the top of the hour, answering any and all of your Steelers questions. Got one here from Jaden Dunn who says, how would Najee Harris stack up against recent years' top prospect running backs? Would he be the first running back picked if those guys were in the same class? I know that Dave and I both kind of struggle trying to provide perspective and context, trying to compare this year's class to previous years. And I don't know exactly how recent you consider recent to be. If he's going against a Barkley, for example, I think I'll take Saquon Barkley over Najee Harris. I would just say I think I would rank Harris highly just because I think he's such a well-rounded game of blocking, of running, of receiving. And I'll have a video for Steelers Depot and for the YouTube channel, I think on sometime tomorrow or Wednesday, that kind of shows Harris's ability to create and get more than what's blocked. And I've really become even more impressed than I already was pre-draft of his vision and his quickness. The ability to make those small area movements for a guy that's 230 pounds is really impressive and a rare, I think, trait to see in a man of his size. And so I think Harris would be high on that list of comparing previous classes to this one.
Yeah, the fact that he's in every down back. Now, look, you wouldn't expect him, and I've said this several times right from the get go with him. He's probably not going to be the guy that's going to produce a huge amount of 20-yard runs at the NFL level, much in the same way that Le'Veon Bell did not do that. But every other portion of Le'Veon Bell's game was right on the money. Right, caught the ball out of
Hmm.
the backfield, forced missed tackles, pass protect. That's one thing that really not a lot talked about Najee Harris. Najee, I got to get better. My
So
my
does
southern
Tomlin. I
act.
think Tomlin got it wrong too.
My southern accent for some reason, I guess, want to say Najee, but Najee. With him, you go back even deeper into his tape, 2019 and all. You see the pass protection there. He's got a good understanding of angles. He knows how to eat up grass that way, and you just go back and look at a larger sample of his how he was used out of the backfield as well too. And I mean, you could legitimately see a guy that can easily catch 40 plus balls out of the backfield, starting with his rookie season as well. You would think he'd be okay in short yardage situations. The question is what's that line going to be like for him? Now he did run, run behind a great line, but one thing Alex and I have said constantly, especially the last couple of years when evaluating running backs, is how do running backs do when they're forced to create on their own? And I think Alex has some stuff coming up on
Hmm.
that. I've pointed out a couple of clips I think on you on Twitter recently that kind of show that. So that's the big thing. In the NFL, running successfully, you're not, you obviously want your running back to have a success rate of around, the closer to 50%. Or higher, the better as far as the rate goes. But not only that, if you can limit the negative runs, man, if you can limit those -1, -3, -2s, and at least get 1 or 2 yards where a lot of times you get negative yardage, that plays in big too. So hopefully that's where he's going to be able to help in that area among many others on top of it. But as far as ranking them across several classes, man, that's so hard to do, But he, in my without a doubt, and really, I said this right from the get go. The best, I thought he was the best running back in this year's draft class, right out of the chute, and nothing has really changed my mind, on through the pre-draft process and through the draft.
Yeah, I've been the exact same way, Dave, for sure. I got a super chat here, and it's funny we mentioned Najee Harris. Got a super chat from Travis Herco, so he'll jump to the front of the line. Thank you, Travis. Good to hear from you. He says, "Sorry, I'm late to the party." Najee Harris question: Total yards from scrimmage over under 1350. Which way you going? And I put the article up here that you wrote a little bit ago today, Dave, for Steelers Depot with ESPN's projection of 1300 total yards. And Dave, I think that's really light for Harris in the 17 game season. I'm going over on this one.
I tell you what, you spend the first round draft pick on a running back, it better be over.
Yeah.
That's my view. Look, with a 17 game season and knowing that he should be the bell cow right out of the chute, and we know how, they like to have those backs, get plenty of the work, and the fact that he showed at Alabama that he can catch the ball out of the backfield. Yeah, I would be disappointed if it's under that 1350. To be quite honest with you, I'm expecting him to break Franco Harris's rookie
Hmm.
rushing record. I'm expecting him to set the total yards from scrimmage record for the Steelers as a rookie as well too. So yeah, I mean I'll take the over just for the sheer fact that it better not be under.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So good question there, Travis. Dave and I both going the over. And the last style bender saying that he would take, or at least that would maybe in the order that they would go: Taylor, Dobbins, Edwards, Hilaire. I would take Harris over Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins, and Clyde Edwards Hilaire. I think Dobbins was a second round guy. I think Harris obviously would have gone a lot higher than that.
I guess where and obviously not a first round guy, but with the Browns and Nick Chubb, it's going to be interesting to kind of parallel those two
Hmm.
moving forward. I think Najee might be the better pass catching back, but I mean we have seen Chubb break a few already during his brief NFL career so far. But yeah, I mean I mean look you. I think he's better than his predecessor, Josh Jacobs with the Raiders.
Hmm.
Yeah, you get into the area with Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley. Then that's when you start having the discussions and all.
Right.
But he definitely should rank right up there, especially let's say the last 5 years when it comes to first round running backs.
John Pennington, Dave, and Alex, is there a way we can get a mini report on the progress of last year's practice squad and this year's undrafted free agent camp battle so we know what's going on? Thanks. I know Matthew, mostly Matthew, and a little bit of myself, preview some of those camp battles as we get closer to training camp. So, A, let's just hope there'll be a training camp for us to go to this year. It sounds like that's going to happen. Nothing set in stone, but I'm as optimistic as ever about that type of stuff. But usually we have those types of articles in terms of specific camp battles occurring closer to the start of training camp in July. But for now, we're doing a lot of profiles and kind of breakdowns on undrafted players and player profiles and certain aspects of their game. And so look for that over the next couple of weeks, John. Next question here comes from the last style bender. Do you think Henry and Bugs could be cut if Loudermilk has a good preseason? Yeah, I think Bugs is someone that has a lot of talent. I think Bugs is the more talented player, the better athlete, better pass rusher than Isaiah Loudermilk. I think Loudermilk's probably better versus the run, but Bugs has just been really inconsistent with his weight and just assignment sound and stuff like that. It sounds like based on what some of the coaching staff has said about him. So I could certainly see Bugs being on the bubble and being the biggest threat to losing his job, with Loudermilk being drafted. And then Henry Mondo's a guy that I think we forget about too. I think he'll be kind of right on that bubble, right on that cusp as well. He'll have some really unique special teams value, being able to cover kicks that might be able to secure his chances better than Isaiah Bugs.
Yeah, the moment they drafted Loudermilk, it got real sketchy for Bugs.
Hmm.
I think, and more so than, look, unless something happens, I really would expect Carlos Davis to make this roster, this year, and kind of, and until further notice, kind of be the guy that we would expect maybe be the future in the middle in that base defense, and occasionally play some sub package stuff as well too. So yeah, I mean, uh, you really need louder milk to you spend that kind of draft commodity value or whatnot on a player like you did in louder milk. Man, you sure hope he hits or at least sticks,
Hmm.
his rookie season there, because there's not much in the hopper, because after Wormley's only probably only going to play the one more season for the Steelers, you would think. Same with Tyson Alualu. And then, obviously Cameron Hayward's getting a little bit older on top of it. So rest assured, I think early in next year's draft, you're going to see another defensive end type drafted kind of early.
True, good point. That's maybe the reason why they took defensive linemen, this year, despite it not being an obvious need for the here and now. I understand that kind of foresight. I still can't agree with a pick though overall, much less trading up to get him. Another super chat here from Travis Herco again. Thank you, Travis. Didn't have to send two in a row, but we appreciate it. What will be the bigger impact this upcoming season? Big Al leaving the front line or Banner coming back? It's a really good question, Travis. I think that remains to be seen, considering we just haven't seen much of a core for at left tackle, and really just haven't seen Banner in terms of being a starting tackle in this league for really more than a game. So I think it really comes down to just how comfortable are you with a core for being at left tackle. I think it's his more natural position than right tackle. It's where he played at college, but man, I think that might be like the $1 million question there, Travis.
Yeah, look, I mean, throw a core for into all that as well too. I mean, you got so many. I mean, based on the little bit that we saw out of Banner at right tackle for 2/3 of a game or whatever it was last season, and um yeah, he looked fine, but obviously when used as a blocking, as the extra lineman, has looked fine there. But I mean, we just don't have a lot to go on what I'd like to call the new Zach Banner. It's like we're going to learn a lot about him, and then obviously with a core fourth, uh, he did okay at right tackle, but left tackle is more of his natural position. Will that help him?
Right.
On top of it, he's obviously going to have somebody breathing down his neck now too, or you hope at some point in Dan Moore Jr. there. So, look, I know Big Al. I know a lot of people are happy Big Al's leaving. I get it. Not a great run blocker and all, and yeah, he had his moments in pass protection, especially with certain likes of Carl Lawson. I keep going back to that
Hmm.
as well. But for the most part. Uh, to have an Iron Man like they had, like in Al Villanueva for all that long, and to have that many of quality starts overall, there's some degree of that you're going to miss, I think.
Yeah, 90 career starts at tackle all in a row. First tackle in Steelers history to do that since 2016 when he became the full-time starter entering week 1 that year. He missed 30 career snaps. Pretty crazy to talk about, and 7 of those came in a blowout in 2017 against the Texans. So I wrote about that or talked about that, I should say, in my terrible take this morning. Kevin,
When you
okay.
go back over history, and I wrote about this back when he was a couple of years ago, I think about him being the Iron Man and all like that. I'm not sure I'm going to live live long enough to see someone break that
Yeah.
streak at left tackle for the Steelers. I mean, that's quite an accomplishment when you think about it. Not only just with the Steelers, but in the NFL overall when it comes to offensive linemen playing that many games in a row. So yeah, it was probably time to move on from age, money, run blocking. You add all those things up together. It made in the salary cap situation, it made sense just let him ride off into the sunset and all. But just don't throw him out, completely and forget about him.
NFL leader among offensive linemen in consecutive snaps played. He held that spot last year after I think it was originally held by both J.C. Treader and Joel Bitonio of the Browns, but they both missed a couple of snaps last year, so we'll have a longest active streak in the NFL. Kevin A says, "Hey Alex, do you think Buddy will be the starter by midseason?" No, I doubt it. You got Vince there, you got Spillane there. Unless there's injuries the way that there were last season, I don't believe Buddy Johnson will be starting by midseason. Maybe next year, but probably not by week 8 of the week 9, whatever midseason is anymore of 2021.
Yeah,
All
you want to get a good. I mean, look, don't keep him busy.
yeah.
He'll be on Danny Smith's best friend
hmm
for at least his rookie season here.
Steeler fan 1933 says hello, Alex Dave and Steelers Nation. Thank you for being here. Got a question here from Ultimate Elite 11. Hey, Alex and Dave, happy to be here. What chance does Isaiah McCoy have of making the roster? Sorry if I spelled his name wrong. You spelled it correctly. And Dave, I knew you did a great kind of contextualization on McCoy and his targets this past year at Kent State. Only 4 games for the Golden Flashes this year. What was your takeaway in watching Isaiah McCoy?
I tell you, and I've said this a few times now. You look at his, his pro day results and all like that, and uh, I mean, look, he's not a 4-4 guy. I don't think anybody's going to look at the tape and say, "Oh man, that guy just eat up some grass and just run right past people." But here's the thing: he runs right past people. And, now, look, it is in the MAC, and we saw James Washington during his career at Oklahoma State run past quite a few people too, off coverage mainly. I think predominantly we saw James Washington do that. Now, one thing with Isaiah McCoy, yeah, just in those 4 games that I looked at, man, he's doing it not only against off coverage, but he's doing it up against press man as well too. He's not shifty, but he's just got good movement, good fluid movement. I think off the line there. And Lord have mercy, Alex, that quarterback at Kent State.
Crum, Dustin Crum, right?
Yeah, man, he met there. I think are 4 or 5 instances on tape just from last year alone that McCoy has his man beat by at least a good yard and a half, sometimes more. Well, really about 2 yards or more, and it's a touchdown if that quarterback puts that ball on him.
hmm
So those stats could have been, and he had a nice average yards per catch, a nice average yards. Or depth of target and reception, depth of target numbers that are real attractive as well too. Not a very nuanced route runner, and a lot like one thing that sticks out to me too. One of the things I like about these contextualizations is you get to see snap out, target after target, snap after snap. Just like James Washington, he lined up predominantly on the right side, just like Washington did at Oklahoma State. Now they did move him around maybe a little bit more than James Washington got moved around in college, but that's one thing. He's just not an overly nuanced route runner. He
hmm
runs those outs. He runs. He's got. He hears footsteps in the middle of the field. I'll tell you that.
mm
He hears the footsteps. He had. I think I have him down for what, 4 drops. I think,
Yep.
and I think 3 of them came in the middle of the hash marks.
Okay.
There, and I'm trying to remember where the other one came at off the top of my head there. But there's something there to work with. If he's going to make the 53-man roster, he's going to have some special teams ability, and he's going to have to be able to, do a little bit more than what he did at Kent State. So, I think best case scenario, or at least my initial projection for him right now, would be a guy that's going to give a good, honest run for a practice squad spot, and then kind of see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I think that's a really good analysis of him. It was so strange, because I looked at the posts that you had, some of the clips that you were tweeting out, and photos and videos, and for a guy who ran 4.68, he doesn't play like 4.68, or
Oh,
he or I don't know, he's going against the slowest cornerbacks in the world because he's winning vertically consistently, and it is kind of that James Washington mold where you're a bigger guy, you're not blessed with 4.4 speed, but you have that, if it's a nuanced thing or physicality or whatever the case is, to get open vertical. But it feels like McCoy, granted against the MAC, but was winning cleaner downfield more so than even Washington was in college. He was more of a combative catch, jump ball kind of guy. McCoy seems to be like he's just flat out running past these guys and stacking them effectively.
I mean, he's got some separation on some guys,
Right.
and really not just last year, but I mean, you go back a couple of clips in 2000 and what was it, 2019 against Auburn, 2018 against, I'm trying to think who the other one was in 2018 as well, be able to get down the field like that. Now make no mistake, Washington, he had some clean wins deep down the
Sure.
field, but it just what really got me is how many times. I mean, I mean, we're talking more than 2 yard separation, more than 15 yards down the field. I mean, a lot further than 15 yards down the field. And had the quarterback put the ball on him, I mean, he's probably got another, I don't know, 100 yards reception out there and three more touchdowns.
Mm,
That was kind of left on on the table, and that was just in 4 games.
right. Yeah, and also I'll have an interview tomorrow on Steelers Depot. I talked to Isaiah McCoy over the weekend, and so we'll have that article up on Steelers Depot in the morning. Really good guy to talk to.
I haven't looked at his blocking or anything else like that. Some people saying not all. And he's got the body size. You would think he'd be okay, in that area. But I haven't looked at that portion of his game. Looks like some backside X and some Z for him, and on maybe an occasional slot
Hmm.
snap. I think they ran a lot of RPOs over there. I think, and a lot of I think four wide receiver sets in addition to that.
Yeah, McCoy told me he's willing to block punts and kicks and block downfield as a receiver and do whatever it takes. He said he had two offers coming after the draft. It was Detroit and Pittsburgh. I said, why Pittsburgh? He said he wants to win Super Bowls. So that's why he went to Pittsburgh. So there you go. Got a super chat here from Jason Bodine. Thank you so much, Jason, for the $5 super chat. This is, I think, an intentional merger. Daleks, I like that. Which of the undrafted free agent DBs do y'all think has the best chance of making this team as well as any sort of impact? I think there's several guys. I mean, they signed, half their undrafted class were defensive backs. And that's the guy that I profiled. Maybe I'm a little biased here, but Shakur Brown out of Michigan State, who I think was a draftable talent. Junior that left early didn't run well. That's probably the reason why he fell out of the draft, being kind of small and slow. But 5 interceptions this past year, a really good zone processor, a playmaker, aggressive on the football, and does damage after the catch. So obviously, a lot of this comes down to special teams and what impact you can make there. And as Dave alluded to, Danny Smith, and if you can get in his good graces. But I think Shakur Brown and then Mark Gilbert out of Duke are the two names that I'm really eyeing this summer.
Boy, it sure would be nice to have one of those guys hit, wouldn't it?
It would. It's long overdue. Would your answer be Brown as well, or Gilbert,
Oh
or
yeah, I mean, look,
Steiner,
I
or
mean,
somebody else?
yeah, and then, I think there was a report earlier today, something along the lines that Shakir Brown, who was it? Tony Pauline, I think, said on a radio interview today that just didn't interview well or something
Mm,
during the. But you would think in the land of cornerbacks, uh, interview not interviewing well, for that to knock him out, make him undrafted completely. Now, look, I suppose overall wide receiver and cornerback class this year was deep and all like that, but there's something about production that you just cannot ignore, and Shakira Brown had that. So him and Gilbert, obviously, I think are the two to really kind of keep your eye on. Moving forward, root for one of those guys at least to catch on him and potentially like in Shakira Brown's place or situation, be the slot guy.
right. Yeah. Certainly, slot depth is a big question mark for the team right now. But the other undrafted guys they signed too: Donovan Steiner from Florida and Lamont Wade at a Penn State, local kid from Clareton High School. Also, I think some intriguing names to watch. Mike Adesso, so as of today, who would be the free safety if Minka was to get hurt? There doesn't seem to be an obvious replacement, and this is concerning. It is a concern, Mike. It may be the guy that they just signed on Friday, Arthur Millette from the Jets the past 2 years. He's a versatile guy that played slot, kind of moved to more free safety role when he came back from injury last year off the IR designated to return. So it's very much up in the air, and it is a concern there. But if Millette makes the roster, then it may be him.
Yeah, and Arthur is a guy that can move around and play all over too. So that there is that has plenty of game experience, but man, it just feels like this team could use another even another safety with experience, right?
Hmm.
And one that's got a lot more experience playing center field too on top of it. But they definitely throw a lot of mud up against the wall. Obviously with Trey, Norwood, and undrafted free agents and all, and hopefully something comes out of that pile.
Yeah, certainly looking for that, but it is certainly a question there in terms of depth, and let's just all hope that Minka Fitzpatrick continues to stay healthy. Jason says, Alex, it's pronounced Bodine. Sorry about that, Jason. I apologize. I was thinking Todd Bodine. I was watching NASCAR this weekend, so Bodine, got it. I will remember that hopefully for next time. Let's see, go back to the questions here. Let's see. DJKJ says, Hey, Alex, what do you think will happen with the quarterback position this year? I have my initial roster predictions out this morning on Steelers Depot. You can see the quarterbacks that I kept. It was the same as Dave with Ben, Rudolph, and Haskins. I did have Josh Dobbs on the practice squad, though, so they'll battle things out. Nothing guaranteed. I think, obviously, Ben's your starter. Rudolph, very, very likely to be your number two. From there, it's a battle. I think Haskins, though, does ultimately win the job.
Yeah, I think so too. But he'll good on them for bringing bringing Dobbs back to push him. They,
For
they
sure.
they just cannot let Haskins just walk right into this thing. So he will be pushed, and hopefully hopefully he does win it and gets the number three spot.
Question here, and I apologize on the pronunciation, but Oslair Caldas. Hello, Alex. Cheers from Brazil. Cheers. Thank you for watching. Must be pretty late or very early over there, I should say. Would you be in favor of adding a free agent man to man corner to the mix? If so, do you have a name in mind? Would Bashaud Breeland be a good addition? Yeah, I think Breeland makes sense. I looked at him a couple years ago when they signed Steven Nelson. I looked at him and Bradley Roby and guys like that. I think they do want to take a look at their young guys and see what Pierre and maybe the last chance for Justin Lane can do, and some of these undrafted guys that Dave and I are talking about. Gilbert being an outside corner, Brown being, excuse me, more of a slot corner, and then maybe you go from there and make any changes or other additions to your roster. But yeah, there is concern there about just the overall. Look up my prediction here at cornerback. It's Hayden Sutton and then Pierre Millette, Brown, and Gilbert. It does not look nearly as good as it did a year ago with Steven Nelson and Mike Hilton.
Hmm.
Question here from Simon. This is which of the draft picks has surprised you the most in a positive way when you've gone back and had a deeper dive on their tape? Dave, any prospects that have surprised you in a positive way when you've rewatched them or watched them?
Uh, I mean, Buddy Johnson. I mean, the deeper you get into his film, you see him doing more, especially stuff point A to point B, from the middle of the field out. Not necessarily uh, lateral, but more at an angle. One of his sacks, as a matter of fact, was running the quarter. It wasn't a pocket sack by any stretch of imagination. It was the quarterback scrambling out to the
Hmm.
side. I want to say it was the LSU game, if I'm
Okay.
not mis-
I think
not
so. I
mis-
think there were a couple like that. North Carolina was another one. His sacks were not high quality in what I saw.
Right, but at least on that one, he made a point. He comes from all the way in the middle of the
Hmm.
field and really does a good job of turning on his jets and getting there in a hurry. It's little things like that stuck out to me in that area overall there. So I mean, there's definitely something there to work with. Especially for a guy that's more of a take on a lead blocker, always near the line of scrimmage kind of player there. So I didn't know a lot about him prior to the draft. And in fact, I think it was one of the last profiles that we had put up on the site
Hmm.
this year. But have learned a lot more about him since the draft, and definitely understand why the Steelers drafted him.
Mark Leslie, now that the draft is over with, as things stand, how much worse is this team compared to last year? What do we still need to really compete for a ring this year? That second question's it's a really good one. I just feel like it's worse. I mean, obviously, I think it's worse. It's hard to argue this roster got better. You could sit there and say, well, if the run game is more effective and there's more balance, it's going to have a lot of benefits to you in a lot of ways, and that's probably a fair point to make. But you just lost a lot of key pieces with, Dupree and Mike Hilton replacing this offensive line. It's just total transformation of the O line. Well, it's probably needed. You just have a lot of question marks there about how things are going to go. So I think this team just overall is worse, and a lot of teams in the North. I think Baltimore got better. The Browns, I think, certainly got better, and so there's that aspect as well, where the teams around you you're going to be directly competing with all I think took bigger steps in the right direction than Pittsburgh did this offseason.
And I think we've said it since the end of since this last season ended. I mean, there's no way other than to think that this defense is going to take a step backwards in 2021. Is just how big a step backwards is it going to be? And even saying that back when we didn't envision Steven Nelson not
Right.
being there,
Absolutely.
and now he's not there. And against the run, they had their issues last year against certain teams in the slot in certain situations. They definitely had their issues there. I think they're going to be relying on a lot more more inexperienced players a little bit more. We're definitely going to need to have Devin Bush to take that next step this year. Definitely going to have Tyson Alualu and Carlos Davis. Or Tyson play like he did last year, and then Carlos Davis to make another step forward when he's on the field. Need Cameron Hayward to stay healthy, and we're gonna have to see. Look, Alex Highsmith had a good rookie season for what it was, for what he was asked to do. But as the coaches have said, that kid had to catch a moving train. So
Hmm.
he's got to be on that train this year, and we got to see some some major improvement right out of shoot with him, and especially play against the run. Those like it or not, those are some big shoes he's filling for Bud Dupree now. And you got to help take that pressure off TJ Watt on the other side on top of it. So my biggest fear, look, I mean, can the offense get, I don't want to say can it get any worse, because there is a portion of it that makes you say, well, yeah, technically I guess it could, but you would think with adding in Najee Harris and being more aggressive, hopefully up front on that offensive line, and maybe being able to run the ball more successfully, that should help. You got the same receivers back. Hopefully your tight end room will be a little bit better this year on top of it. So hopefully the offense, the expectations obviously are that the offense takes the step in the right direction. The question is the step that they take, is it going to get eaten up by the defense
Hmm.
going back the other way?
Right.
So uh, there's a lot of questions about this 2021 Steelers team.
Yeah, will those things wash out? Is going to be the question. I know someone was asking last stop better asking about how the Ravens got better. I don't think they got as good as the Browns did this offseason, but while yes, they lost Orlando Brown, they traded him away. They're going to get back Ronnie Stanley. So I think those two things, in a sense cancel out. So they didn't play with Stanley for the majority of the last 3 quarters of this past season. They had some weapons with Watkins, who yes, there's injury concerns, but if he's healthy and available, he'll be an asset. They drafted Rashad Bateman, I believe, and so he's going to help out in the passing game. So I think they've at least taken some steps forward, or at least maybe just not gotten worse. They've kind of stayed about the same. Pittsburgh's taken a step back. Cleveland's taken, I think, a clear step forward. And so that's not a good place to be when you're looking around what the rest of the AFC North has done this offseason.
Hey man, hit 10 wins might win the AFC North.
You think 10 this
Eh,
year? This year in
I
a
think
17 game season? I'm thinking more 11 to
I
12.
think I think 10 might win this division
Okay.
this year.
All right, DSCNT. Do you see the Steelers bringing Avery Williamson back for inside and outside linebacker depth? Wouldn't want to see Marsh as their only option because of injuries again. Well, Williamson is definitely not an edge rusher to kind of start off with that. And then I think after the re signing of Vince Williams, bringing him back after cutting him, and then drafting Buddy Johnson, I don't really see any home or fit for Williamson, nor do I see a reason for him to want to come to Pittsburgh because there really won't be much of an opportunity there for him to play unless there are several injuries the way that he got traded to Pittsburgh last season manufactured that.
Yeah, the only way I see him coming back now is if you have a couple injuries there at the position, and then if it gets down to that, oh boy, the
Hmm.
season's look. They had enough issue at inside linebacker last year. Let's hope that don't have to see that again there. But now that things have played out the way they have, as you said, with Vince Williams and Buddy Johnson being drafted, it really is hard because Avery Williamson doesn't really offer you much in the way of special teams value and all like
Right.
that. So it would take a couple of injuries, I think, for him to return back now.
Yes, DJK Josh Dobbs is still on the roster. He was signed about a month or 6 weeks ago, somewhere around there. Saloon asks, great work as always, guys. Thank you so much. Who's the best blocking tight end coming out of college, and who has the highest ceiling in this attribute? Pitts, Firemuth, or Tremble? Cheers from Brazil, our second Brazil question of the day. I think Tremble was the best blocking tight end of probably any tight end in the class last year, at least of any of the earlier round tight end. So I would probably order that Tremble, Fryermuth, and Pitts. I don't think Pitts was a terrible blocker, but not as good as Tremble and not as good as Fryermuth.
Yeah, once you got past those top two, though, the Boston College kid, I kind of like some of the stuff that he did, and who's the Boise State tight end? Was it
Hmm.
Bates?
Yeah, John Bates.
Was another one I thought was okay there. Look, the deeper that you get down into, I mean, if, Fryermuth's tape, and I think didn't John just break him
Hmm.
down?
Yep.
The blocking on that, very good job on that as well too. And look, I mean, if you it either had to be Fryermuth or Trimble, and I kind of envisioned Trimble as being more of a fourth round guy, and obviously he went higher than that. So you understand. I mean, it's easy to understand why they like Fryermuth. I just don't think Fryermuth is as dynamic of a receiver. I'll put it to you this way: Fryermuth is a better blocker coming out of college than Jesse James was coming out of college,
Hmm. I agree.
and now as far as I think Farmer's good in the red zone, but wasn't Jesse okay in the red zone at Penn State as well too? There's just outside of Farmouth running over people after he catches, there's just not a lot from what I've seen overall. Down the field stuff when it comes to Farmouth. Now he's more of a he knows how to settle in the zones and stuff like that. But there's not going to be too many safeties or athletic linebackers. I don't think that he's going to run away from that down the middle of the field.
Yeah, he's not going to run away from anybody. I think you might catch him, Dave. I mean, he's just a pretty
No,
slow
no,
guy,
no, no.
but
I couldn't cover him. I promise you.
but his path and his ways of winning is going to be the toughness and combat catch and kind of boxing guys out with his size at what is he 6'4", about 250. So that's going to be the way he'll win more contested rather than running away from guys. Maddox, Gerald, so you think Isaiah Loudermilk will go right into the mix as a defensive end? I doubt it. It's pretty deep there. I know there's expiring contracts, but for the here and now, you bring back Chris Wormley, you re-sign Tyson Alualu, you have Hayward and Tuitt, obviously, and you still have Carlos Davis, and we'll see what happens to Bugs and Mondo. Not all those guys are going to make the 53, but Loudermilk may not even be active to start the season just based on the way they generally play things.
I think as a fan's perspective, if you're looking at this, you're hoping that uh, Wormley progresses in his, in his second season with the team. You hope that Alualu stays healthy and plays like he did. Carlos Davis takes that next step forward, and he played pretty decent in the 60 or so snaps that he played last season. Obviously, you hope that Hayward and Tuitt stay healthy. And the best case scenario is that Loudermilk learns a lot during training camp, catches on quickly, and gets a red shirt, basically season where that includes him maybe playing in 2 or 3 games in total, and with one of them being fill in the finale because hopefully the Steelers have something clinched or something along those lines, and then really you look forward to maybe seeing more of him in 2022. I don't think you want to hope to see Loudermilk play a lot of snaps during his rookie season.
Right.
Period.
That's a good point to make for sure. So we'll see, but hopefully not. Ashley Bright, longtime listener and viewer of Steelers Depot. Good question here.
Brother Ashley, shout out to Brother Ashley.
Do you think we could trade one of our receivers, say James Washington, for a cornerback? Is James Pierre going to start over Lane? I think the approach the team is going to take the way they did with tight end back in what year did Jesse James get drafted? 2017, 2018. Where you go into camp and evaluate your young guys and see how they do, and then you make a call from there. Even if that group struggles at corner, it's hard for me to see them, taking away an established player like James Washington and trading him for. That's kind of opening up another need. That's in some sense at the same time that you're adding a corner. So they could trade a draft pick, but and they've already traded away a 2022 fourth for Loudermilk. They traded away a future fifth for Williamson. They got back a seventh for that, but it's still just a seventh round pick. So if you do anything, you're going to trade away draft capital more than you would trade a player, especially a starter, or at least like a rotational guy like James Washington. And my guess is yes, Pierre will start over Lane, but again, those things will be figured out at Latrobe.
Yeah, I don't see Washington going anywhere, and I think Pierre, I think he's probably the odds-on favorite, like you said.
Right, but not guaranteed. Obviously, neither guy has a lot of experience. Lane
Right.
does have more than Pierre, so you go into camp and see how they look and go from there. Solarverse 6, what do you guys think of this rookie numbers? Any surprises on the 53? I imagine that question is asking how many rookies will make the 53. I know in your first projection you have all nine making it. In mine, I had eight,
which is wrong.
which history says will not happen. I had eight. I did not have Trey Norwood making the team at all. That's my early calling my shot in a negative way, I guess. But I did not have Norwood making the 53-man roster. Let's see here. Mike asked a question about the free safety situation. Jay Wool says, I think Samuels may win a roster spot because of his third down ability, and I think Snell and Ballage battle for the last spot at short yardage back. Your thoughts? I get that. I mean, I think Snell and Ballage have a similar skill set overall, where they're, in theory, bigger guys, can be short yardage runners. Ballage has actually been extremely effective in those situations since he came into the league, about the only part of his game that has been really effective. And they both have been, I think, quality special teams players. But man, Samuels, I know he can play in space, but the production as a receiver has just been really, really limited and really poor. And he could barely see the field last year for a team that, threw the ball a ton and could not run the ball. So it's just hard for me to see Samuels making this team based on just a talent level.
I think something's gone wrong if that happens.
Yeah.
Not great in pass protection either. Has the limited work as wide receivers. Had some key drops.
Right.
Uh, why in the heck they try to use him? Didn't they use him once or twice in a short yardage situation last year and that didn't go well. Balaj a lot better in that area. Special teams wise, probably Balaj and Samuel might be about a wash. I don't know, but it's time to move on from Jalen Samuels.
Yeah, I think it's time to move on from a lot of the running game of how it looked last season. Let me go back through the questions here. Griffin Morris, have you guys thought about Steelers possibly trading up next draft for someone like Spencer Rattler out of Oklahoma? I have not
Oh, I
thought
haven't
about
even
the
got that far.
2022 draft. You had a PFF mock draft though, about the USC kid though, right? Do you know anything about what is his name? Slotus?
Just the highlights that I
Yeah,
posted there. I haven't spent I don't I haven't spent any time studying those quarterbacks
sure.
whatsoever. I mean, I unfortunately I could name four of them. I think right now that's as far as I've gotten right now. But no, I'm wasting my energy right now on learning more about these
hmm
undrafted free agents and these draft picks right now.
Me too. Let's see here. Reginald Rivers, how many players eligible for the practice squad? Do we know if it's going to be a 12-man or a 16-man practice squad? Do we have any information on that?
I don't want to say either way because if
Right.
the one way I'll tell you will wind up probably being wrong. I don't know if there's. I've heard I've heard it go both ways, and
Okay.
and I don't think it's been finalized on that right now. On it, my hope is that they stick with the 16. You
hmm
know.
Yeah, mine too. It's supposed to be 12 as per the new CBA. Obviously, because of COVID last year, they expanded to 16 so teams could have more roster spots and more players in the facility if someone else got sick and it was quarantined, couldn't play, whatever the reason was. So I don't know in terms of how many players are on the roster or could be practice squad eligible. It's a large number because of the expanded. What am I look? What's the word I'm looking for here? The expanded number of players who are eligibility for the practice squad. So it's a pretty large number overall.
I think that the plan is for them to go back to 12, but
Okay.
obviously that with COVID still having whatever impact whatnot, I'm sure it could be collective bargained. I don't know for sure. I'll try to get more of a final answer as we get a little bit deeper into the off season here.
Zachary Prosba, as a fan, what draft pick for the Steelers made you pump your fist and say yes, and which wanted to make you throw the remote at the TV? Thanks, guys. He's saying all time, not just for 2021. Dave, you've seen more draft classes than I have. How would you
Oh,
respond to that question?
Oh man, I mean, I vividly remember we had just built a house in 2004, and just had moved into it and just had a kind of a makeshift TV set up in that room and the whole Roethlisberger. I was super pumped about that. Just
Mm.
just sheer fact you go that long in between kind of franchise quarterbacks and all, hoping that could be the one. Uh,
Because the feeling was that Ben wouldn't last to 11, right? That's kind of what I'm looking back and researching.
Well, we
I
didn't,
mean, you never know. Yeah.
yeah. I don't remember so much about the pre-draft process that year as much as I do actually, the actual draft day. It's just gotten over the years now where I'm, you know, I don't get up or down. I guess when
Right.
it comes to draft picks and pumping fist or anything like that. But I guess the last time I got overly excited would have been the Roethlisberger one in 2004. That shows how old I
Mhm.
am.
Right.
I'm
Well,
I'm I'm boring now, you know.
well, it seems like the Steelers were surprised that he fell because the expectation was that he was going to go to the Giants, and had the Giants and Chargers not worked out the deal for Philip Rivers for Eli Manning, that swap, the Giants would have taken Ben at number 4. And so who knows what Philip Rivers would have gone, what his path would have been. But obviously, the course of history, or it would have been changed dramatically. So for me, I think
I was a big DeCastro
I was
fan
just
that
gonna say,
year.
I was just gonna say
Yeah,
that because no one thought he would fall to 24. He was like a top 10 to 15 guy, and then you just see him, one spot, just ticking down. You think, is he really gonna land to 24? And he did. And it's like, my goodness, this is Christmas. And so I think DeCastro was that surprise because it's just you just never thought he was gonna fall that far.
right.
In terms of the ones that made you throw the remote, the TV again, I don't think Dave and I get that kind of way. I know it was a seventh. I was just
Gerard
gonna say,
Hall.
I know it was a seventh round pick, but yeah, Holloman just felt like they looked at the box score and went, "Yeah, we'll give it a shot," and it did not work out for Gerard
That
Holloman.
that was a fantasy magazine pick
Yeah.
or something. They just who's left on the board? Oh, he had look at these interceptions that he had. Yeah, let's get him. Or
It's
you look
funny
at
how we're both like totally in tune
yeah,
with that.
yeah.
Yeah, that was like someone's kid making that pick. It had a lot of interceptions, so we'll take me. I think he had one tackle in training camp and was
Mm.
cut outright. He's actually playing in the CFL. He's still playing football. I don't know where. Maybe in the indoor football league with Martavis, but he's playing football somewhere. So good for him. Young Whitey, what do you guys think of the quarterback Roland Rivers the third accepting rookie minicamp? Yeah, he'll be in there for a tryout because they needed a quarterback who was eligible. We'll see if they
I
add.
think Alex is going to be the other quarterback there, aren't you, Alex?
I'll get my arm warmed up. We'll see. Yeah, he was the quarterback at Penn State's pro day throwing to Fryermuth, and he's a slippery rock kid, a local guy that had a really good career in the PSAC. So that's probably how he got on the radar for Pittsburgh. But I mean, 4 quarterbacks on this team, I don't see Rivers, getting a contract out of rookie minicamp.
I hope Najee Harris brings a couple bottles of Gatorade as well too,
What is it?
because
He's the only running back?
he's
Really?
the only running back right now on the
Man.
on the rookie minicamp roster right now. So hope he packs a lunch and brings a couple bottles of Gatorade.
I mean, they do have a fifth trout guy that we don't know who that is, so maybe that's a running back. I mean, what do you say the roster was in terms of the eligible guys? Like 35, 36
38,
guys?
38 or
Yeah.
something like I
I
forget
mean,
what.
they can't run like an actual practice with that small number of guys. It has to be more of kind of a glorified walkthrough. They can't actually have an actual practice with that small number of guys available.
Yeah, some of them centers gonna have to play guard.
And at the same time, you're the center and the guard.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna have to modify the way they do things. I mean, it's good to get those guys in and playbooks and some conditioning stuff and get a feel for how practice works and NFL coaching, but they cannot hold a normal practice with 35-ish guys available to them.
What if Najee heeds the? I mean, obviously Najee could sit out rookie minicamp and not worry about
Right.
getting cut. What if he heeds the union's urging and doesn't show up? Oh Lord. I have 36 players we have down as being able to participate right now, plus one unknown tryout player
Okay.
right now. If my understanding because obviously first year players, as long as they do not have a credited season, can attend. So that technically should rule out guys like Demarcus Christmas. That should rule out who is the Coyle, the
Hmm.
tackle, and
T.
who was
Gray
the other one?
Scales, you said was not
Yeah,
eligible.
T. Gray Scales. I don't think is eligible. I think those are the three. I believe those are the three first year players that I think have got a credited season that would make them in eligible there. So man, that's not a lot to work with.
No, it's not. Yeah, well, I think Harris will be there. I know that Isaiah McCoy I talked to, undrafted guy, of course, he's going to be there. And Pat Fryermuth said in a recent interview that he's going to be at rookie minicamp. So I think most of those rookies are going to show up. Bring back, bring back Levon Hooks for one more go around. That dude was at like literally 5 rookie minicamps. Bring him back just for old time's sake. Let's see. CNT says Artie Burns and Edmonds with the thumbs down in terms of the worst draft picks that he's seen. That's a fair point there, especially on Burns. You kind of looked at that one and went, eh. That feels like a reach, and it was. Jay Wills, national sports sites are listing Kendrick Green at 6'4". Others have him at 6'2", and others have him at 6'1". How tall is this guy? He is 6'0", 17". I will pull up the Pro Day tracker that Dave so thankfully put together. This was like my favorite link during the pre-draft process, Dave. So thank you very much for doing this. Kendrick Green at his Pro Day, you can see here 6'0", 17". So just under 6'2" is official height.
Explain to them what the last. Explain to them the format, Alex.
Yeah, Dan Kitchen's getting me on the bandwagon here doing the 4 digits. So basically, what these numbers are, the first number is the first number of your height. So 6 means 6 foot. The next number would be for like if you were 5'11", you'd have a 1 there, whatever the digit is. A 0 means 6'0". And then after that means the inch. So 601 means 6 foot 1 inch is tall. And the 7 is the last digit, is the eighth. They measure the combine in those in pro days by eighths. So he's 6 foot 6 feet tall, 6 feet 1 inch tall, I should say, 7/8. So 6'0", 17". That last digit represents the eighths in your height.
Okay.
I bumbled that a little bit, but you get the idea. Couple more questions here before we wrap things up. And again, appreciate you guys being here. Dave and I are here every other week answering any and all of your Steelers questions. Cam R says, do you think they should sign Justin Houston to back up Alex Highsmith? He's coming off injury. Isn't Justin Houston
Yeah,
something?
he's like
30.
45, he's like
Yeah.
45 or something too, but they're not going to give you anything on special teams. It would be a very unsteeler like signing. Uh, you know, uh, especially would he play for the minimum? Because
Right.
that's about all the Steelers have to pay on that. Uh, I think they're just going to lay low. I don't think they're done completely there, Alex. To be quite honest with you, look, how many times have we seen the post draft 90-man roster? The players that are on the post draft 90-man roster, you have a guy or two come from the outside that ends up making the 53-man roster. So
Hmm.
there's a long streak of that happening. And I think either outside linebacker, safety, or two positions where you could see laid at. I think Kevin Colbert's just going to lay in the weeds and wait here, and I don't expect it to be an established veteran. If it is, it would have to be for a veteran minimum. Look, I think they want Highsmith to run with that. I think they would like to get a guy, another younger guy, maybe to go with Roche, that can help on special teams. Maybe someone to develop that way, or maybe one of these younger kids step up. On the 90-man roster. I'm not sure who that would be right now. Look, Cassius Marsh, he's a special teamer that can occasionally give you some pass rush.
Hmm.
That's it. So I would look for them to still add somebody, just not a veteran type guy. Let's say Melvin Ingram's coming off some sort of injury, isn't he? Not Ingram. Who's the Chargers?
Isn't that Ingram?
Is that Ingram, the pass rusher for the
Not who
Chargers?
you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Ingram, right?
Okay. Now, if you could get him on the cheap and come in, he'd obviously want to come in and start right away. But even that's a little bit of a stretch, I think.
All right, a couple more questions I want to roll through before we wrap up today's stream. Let me go ahead and find them again. Mike Adesso talking about would Tomlin like Najee's hurdling? I mean, Bell did it and did it well. I think you kind of know what you're getting at with him, so I think you're cool with it because you drafted him and that's in his skill set, and Bell did it and it worked out well for him.
Yeah, it's real hard to, you can take the kid out of the trailer
Right.
park, but you can't take the trailer park out of the kid, and it's kind of hard to, that you go back through his history, man. He likes jumping over people, and it's hard
Hmm.
to kind of tell him no, don't do that now.
Yep, let your running back be a running back. Captain Freebase, there's a name for you. Malik Willis, the Steelers, 2022 NFL draft. That's a kid from Liberty right now. I don't know if Steelers will use a very small school. Okay, well, Liberty, I guess, is actually, they're Division One. They actually played pretty well this year, but he was, I think, an Auburn transfer or something going on there. So that's certainly a name that some people are pointing to as a sleeper in this upcoming draft class. John Pennington, Alex, do you like Calvin Bundage over Marsh? I mean, I haven't seen much of Bundage. He seems like an athletic guy, productive last year at Oklahoma
Small.
State. Yeah, 8.5 sacks, but really kind of skinny, maybe more of an off ball linebacker than an edge. Very, very, but I mean, Marsh is a pretty lanky dude as well. So get in the camp and see how they do. Russ Obenstein, thank you for being here. Says, what's up, Alex and Dave? Getting in late. Do you guys think we're contenders now? I think you can certainly contend for the AFC North. I don't know if the Seals will be the favorites. If you want to put Baltimore, Cleveland as the favorite for the North, I think that's fine by me. But it'll be a really good battle between those three teams.
Yeah, look, I just said earlier in the podcast, I think 10 wins very well could win the AFC North. They're probably going to beat up on each other quite a
Yeah,
bit
that's true.
this year, and without a doubt, the Steelers. Remember a year? What was it last year? All those young quarterbacks that the Steelers are facing, and that's not the case. This year, I mean, they obviously, look, strength of schedule from last year's record, aside, throw that out. I mean, it's a tough schedule when you look at it, as far as their opponents go, and obviously we won't find out the real schedule until Wednesday night and all. But uh, man, you just worry about, once again, the offense. How big a step can the offense take forward in 2021, and will that step be eaten back up with the defense,
Hmm.
declining the other way there? So, I mean, it's hard as a fan and an analyst to say, "Woohoo! Steve is going to make a run at the Super Bowl." However, they should be able to compete and possibly make the playoffs, and then you get in the tournament and see what happens.
We'll see. Lake Erie Hillbilly, Browns fan for 40 years, but I'll tell you what, I took a tour of your stadium a few years ago and really enjoyed seeing it. Very nice stadium and everything ran well. Kudos to you guys. Thank you, Lake Erie Hillbilly. Very nice comment, very nice member of Dog Pound Nation. So thank you for that. A couple more. Jasker Singh says, "Do you guys think the line improved for the run game, however, downgraded for the passing game?" I think overall it's probably a fair way to assess it, but I think there's just a lot of unknowns there. I mean, there's so much turnover in terms of the coordinators and the coaches and the personnel and the scheme and everything. I just don't think we're going to know how things are going to look because we're just used to the same guys lining up every single year, and the changes really happen fast. So I think it's kind of to be determined, Jasker.
I mean, there's a lot of projection there, right?
Ton.
I mean, a ton. I mean, you got it's David DeCastro and and four
Yeah,
guys,
he's
right?
the Will Smith standing in the room. He's the
Right.
last of the holdovers.
I mean, we don't have we don't have a time. Obviously, the tape that we did see on Dotson last year was positive, very
Hmm.
positive, and all like that. And in a limited amount of, the 2/3 of a game on Banner was nice, but I mean, outside of that, we don't have much to go on here. So I mean, it's hard to dive into it and say it's going to be this or going to be that. We're going to be watching along with the rest of you guys and breaking that stuff down weekly to see
Hmm.
how this goes.
Definitely. And last comment here from the last style bender, but Bell got hurt when hurdling against the Bengals. Did he? I mean, I know when Nelson took out his knee, I don't think that was a hurdle. I don't think. Was there another time?
Yeah.
The other game, the MCL in midseason where he missed the rest of the year. Was that a hurdle?
That was out of bounds, wasn't it, or
Yeah,
close to
it
the
was on the
sideline?
sideline. Yeah, I don't remember if it was a hurdle or not. And even if it was, I mean, you can get hurt a million different ways playing running back. You're playing running back. I mean, you can get hurt. And it's nature of the position.
Mhm.
So, I mean, Connor got hurt a million times, and he never hurdled once. Thank goodness. So, you can't have that fear mentality. If you say don't do this because you get hurt, then you're on the bench because anything a running back does could lead to injury. All right, guys. I think that's probably going to do it for today's stream. Chris W says, hit the thumbs up. Thank you so much. Yeah, if you guys want to subscribe, have a video dropping on Najee Harris and his ability to create in the next day or two. So thank you guys for being here, asking great questions. Dave and I will rejoin you guys 2 weeks from now. Rich Hud says 617 8 is 6'2 in the real world. Yeah, that's probably a fair way to round that up to 6'2. But thank you guys for being here. And Dave Bryan, as always, thank you for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Peace and love, and God bless you all.
And the stream went on without a hitch. I have no drop frames, so hopefully that was just a one weird time thing with the stream previously. So thank you guys for being here. This will be archived on Steelers Depot later tonight, so you guys go back and watch it if you want to rewatch it or missed part of the stream. Thank you guys, and we will talk to you soon. Mike, yes, there is a podcast tomorrow. Dave and I will have the podcast on Tuesday. So thank you guys, and we'll talk to you soon.